There's this video on TikTok that I saw that really spoke to me about how I feel when it comes to working as a woman, and not just working as a woman, but working as a mom.
I swear if I could go back in time and tell the woman that stood up for our right to work, I would.
There are circumstances where you probably can't let go of work because you're a single mom or you really need that income for whatever reason. I get it. So I don't want to make this like an overarching message for people that it might not apply to, and I don't want anyone to feel judged by this, because it's not about judgment. It's me having my awakening and sharing my awakening with y'all. And you might not be at this point in your journey. This might not even be a stop that you're going to take on your journey. You might not even go through this path ever on your journey, and that is okay. Like, we don't have to have parallel lives. We're all on different journeys, and it's not a race at all. But I needed to make this video because I think it's important that me, as a unambiguous black woman who grew up low income from the hood, can be in front of this camera and tell y'all that you don't have to be hard. You can soften up. You don't have to be a roughneck. You don't have to be a thuggish, ruggish bone. You can actually rest in your feminine energy. This is a book that I've been reading right now called How to Build a Better Life by Suzanne Vanker. Here's the interesting thing. So if y'all don't know this about me, I went through a lot of trauma in these last couple of years. And that's not it. I've been through the trauma most of my life. It's just things that I don't really talk about openly, but the most obvious pieces of trauma that I've gone through were the losses that I had recently. And if you've been subscribed to me for a while, you know that I recently just lost my mom, and then 13 months before she died, I lost my brother, and then, you know, in 2016 I lost my dad. And each loss has revealed so many things to me, has opened my eyes to the fact that this life is very temporary, and has snapped me out of autopilot. A lot of the times we do things just to do them, and sometimes I don't think we really sit and reflect on, like, why am I doing this? Is this something that I genuinely want? Is this something that my heart wants? And I think a lot of the times we believe that we shouldn't listen to our heart, or we shouldn't listen to even like the Bible or things that are actually good for us. We avoid listening to, but in the drop of a hat, we will listen to and then regurgitate the things that we read on social media, the things that we hear about online in passing, and things that are just popular culture or being shoved down our throats by celebrities who don't even care about us. And for the longest time, like, I got into this whole rhetoric, or not even the rhetoric, I fell into the whole, I'm a feminist and I don't need a man. Y'all who have been here for a long time already know that I've been on this journey of radical self-acceptance, self-love, and, you know, getting closer to God every single day. You know that about me because you know, if you know that because you know I've gone through a lot. You know my trials and tribulations. You know I've lost a lot in this lifetime, and quite frankly, oftentimes I just feel traumatized. And I've drastically changed my life in the last couple of months. The biggest change for me was quitting a six-figure job. And as someone who grew up in the hood, low income, I literally was a Pell Grant recipient. There's all these things that I received because I went to Title I schools and low-income schools all of my life. Free or reduced lunch, like, just to give you a background of, you know, where I'm coming from. And you would think that I would have a lack mindset. You would think that, like, I would be clawing my way to the top as a feminist woman, but I realized that I'm, like, really not a feminist. I'm not. I'm really truly just a woman who wants peace on earth, a woman who's Christian, a woman who believes that I'm not in competition with men, that my husband is a compliment to me, that my husband is my partner, and that men are not all evil. That's something that I've deeply believed for a very long time. If y'all have been subscribed to me for a while, you know I talk about my dad. He passed in 2016, but before he passed, me and him were like this. We were very close. I loved my dad. He was a gentle spirit. He loved me. He was so encouraging. And, you know, I realized that, like, he really wanted my older brothers to show up in, like, a way that was achieving. And because they weren't showing up in that way for a long time, he leaned on me to show up as an achiever. And so I pushed through. Like, I remember graduating from high school, I had the highest SAT score of my graduating class. I remember just being like someone who really cared about education because my dad cared about education. In middle school, he had me go take a test to get into the gifted program, and I didn't want to take the test, but I did it because I wanted to please him. Took the test and I got placed in the gifted program. And so like my life trajectory changed into like being an achiever because my dad like really wanted me to achieve. God rest his soul. I believe he wanted me to do well. He saw that in the States that was what was expected of not only men but of women, and he wanted to make sure that I was taken care of. And at this point in my life, like I just quit my 6-figure job back in April, and it is now July 1st, and I've been reflecting a lot on the way I've navigated through life. And I'm not saying that I have regrets, but there are so many things I've learned over time now that I've lost my dad, and I lost my brother, and I lost my mom suddenly. Like, it's had me sit and take a step back about, okay, what is this life truly about? What truly matters? And so I started to live a more examined life. Shout out to Socrates. But I sit and I examine my life, and I think about, you know, how I like was a grinder, how I was a hard worker, how I climbed the ladder quickly. And the fact that like for the longest time I wanted to be a boss babe. I wanted to have my own. I mean, when me and my husband first got married, I remember not even wanting to like merge our finances for whatever reason, like, and that separation wasn't good. It just didn't cause harmony. It was the opposite of harmony. It was like dissension and just like toxicity and hostility for what? And the older I've gotten and the more I've lost the people I love, I have to think, what am I really here for? And what really does feed my soul? What is a way for me to give back to the world? And how can I make this world a better place? And being a feminist is not the way, because I feel like it limited me in so many ways. And keep in mind, like, this is how I'm feeling. This is my story. This is my journey. And if you have anything to comment, it needs to be respectful, or it's just going to get deleted. And if you disagree respectfully. That's totally fine. I was set up for a world in which I'd be working, being a mom, and doing all this extra stuff. And when I was on the ground doing it, I was so dissatisfied. I was so unhappy, and I was so bitter and angry about it. And I couldn't put the language on it, but I started to pay attention, and realized, like, I don't know if this is really what I want to do. But I still kept going to work, still kept collecting my check. I like dropped my daughter off with my mom. My daughter was 4 months old when I went back to work full time, and I felt icky about it. But I also was like, you know what? We have goals. We have financial goals. We want to do this. We want to buy this and this. And the only thing that stopped me from going down that route was God deciding that this was the time to take my mom. And once my mom was out of the picture, it was either, okay, so your daughter is 8 months old, your mom just tragically passed away. Will you be going back to work? Or will you be deciding to do the thing that you actually want to do but you're afraid to do? And so I quit my job because I thought back to the fact that when my brother died, it was just 3 days later and I went back to work. That is so bizarre that we do that as Americans, that we don't even have a good bereavement policy. Not my oldest, but my second older brother passed tragically from a fentanyl overdose, and a couple of days later I went back to work. That was a monumental, tragic moment in my life, like that I really needed to pause and sit and grieve, and I just went back and I went back to work. So when my mom died, I didn't go back to work, you know, and God opened my eyes to like the things that I really want to do, and I became a stay-at-home mom, which I honestly feel like the trad wife, stay-at-home mom community gets such a bad rep. The way it's like, I guess the way that it's represented online and sometimes misrepresented creates this idea that stay-at-home moms are unreal, like the way it's unrealistic. I don't know, it just isn't sitting well with me. But I've been reading this book called How to Build a Better Life by Suzanne Banker, and her videos were a huge part of why I made it. In this book, Suzanne shares a lot of anecdotal evidence as well as, you know, evidence-based research that's been backed by data and all that. But she shares these stories from different women who email her, and oftentimes I'm like, yo, are they in my brain? Because I can relate to what they're saying. And if I can relate to what they're saying, then there's part of this that's true. And I think not most, but maybe there's a lot of women that can relate. Either way, I'm gonna read this part to you, y'all, from the book. I'm turning 30 soon. With that 30-year mark approaching, I've been going through a multitude of changes of heart and thought. In order to explain them, I need to reveal some context. From the ages of 16 to 24, I lived in New York City. In those years, I was surrounded by private school educators and adults who force-fed a distinctly feminist narrative that I didn't recognize as such at the time. It has only been in my own personal reflection that I'm beginning to see the impact of that message and have examined some of the choices I made along the way as a result. Choices that have led me to my current predicament. The reason I moved to New York originally was to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. From the time I was 15 until about 24, my number one focus and desire was to become a famous recording artist and have a successful career in the industry. Around the same time, I got involved in a serious relationship. I eventually moved in with my boyfriend and we started a business together. We've been together 3.5 years and completely intertwined our lives with a home, business, etc. When I turned 29, I started to have the very normal feelings of wanting to get married and have a family. But here's the problem. We never discussed our viewpoints on marriage and kids early on in our relationship. I just assumed because I felt a certain way at 25 that I would feel that way at 30. Well, I'm here to say that that is not at all true. Today, my boyfriend and I are not on the same page and at all when it comes to planning a future. Playing house has been fun and much easier to maintain financially, but by doing so, I don't believe my boyfriend is in any hurry to propose. I'm not sure what I want to do yet, but I know that I want a multifaceted life with time for family, work, friends, keeping myself in shape, healthy, traveling, and having a home. I'm also feeling pressure of a ticking clock and having to make some tough decisions. I know that due to the narrative women have been conditioned to believe via movies, television, and even by our own parents, that I can't be alone in this struggle. If I could go back in time, I would have pursued the same things, but I would have accepted the fact earlier on that I should also plan accordingly for the other things that make a well-rounded life, including marriage, family, career, and a partner who's on the same page. This was real to me because I used to be that girl on the internet who really loved getting my videos and pictures liked. I love when people double tapped on my pictures. It gave me affirmation. I would be posing, and I was with my husband he was my boyfriend at the time, and then my fiance, and he's not my husband, but at the time I was with him, and I felt like I was still trying to be this seductress. I was still trying to show my body. I was still taking suggestive poses in my pictures. I was still doing that half turn with your booty poking. I was still wanting to be desired by other men, and I wanted to get validation from other black women, so I started wearing wigs and all of this, and I never even thought about having children. I honestly just thought, hey, it would happen if it happened, but there was no real intentionality behind family planning. And I'm so thankful that now I'm a stay-at-home mom, I have a great husband, I have a daughter, and I'm I'm dabbling into entrepreneurship. But for the longest time, I wanted to be a boss babe. I wanted to have my own money. I wanted to travel when I wanted to, do solo trips, do all types of stuff without, consulting my husband now. And just I was super disrespectful, and I feel like I was rude a lot of the times towards him. And all he ever wanted was what was best for me. You know what I mean? And he's not a controlling husband. He's none of those things. And he's so supportive. Literally, he's been with me since I've lost all the people I mentioned. Losing my dad, he was there. Losing my brother, he was there. Losing my mom, he was there. And my daughter's here for me too. But I think about it, in retrospect, it's dang, I did so much to try to impress people who have not been here for me once. The people that were double tapping on my pictures have not shown up for me in the way that my husband shows up for me, in the way my brothers show up for me, the brothers who are currently alive, the way my closest friends show up for me. My husband, my daughter, they're number one. The way God shows up for me is number one. It's God, the way God has showed up for me is the most important thing in the world. And I was doing things to impress the world by showing my body, by wearing wigs, by putting on all this extra makeup. Thank God I never got into plastic surgery like a lot of people do, a lot of women do. Lord have mercy, because that's just not me. My mom has never gotten any kind of work done, and she was the most beautiful woman to me. And so because she never got work done, I'm not getting work done. And that's on period. I don't care how my boobs could sag to my toes. I do not care anymore. I just don't. I'm so unapologetically in love with myself. But it's not that I'm in love with myself. I'm in love with the God who is in me. The way God has been working through me is such a beautiful thing to watch unfold. And part of being a child of God and a daughter of God is serving my family, like submitting to my husband, which a lot of y'all get like ew about. There's nothing wrong with submitting to your husband, but he needs to be your husband. A lot of y'all are out here dating multiple men and doing all this crazy stuff that you shouldn't be doing, busting it wide open for him and him and him. No wonder you're like feeling so dark inside. You know, and then the feminist narrative is it's propaganda, it's so poisoning, it's polluting our minds, when in reality, like, the one thing that has kept me grounded in my midst of the storm and the turmoil has been my daughter. She's the biggest blessing. She gives me a reason to live. Social media has not given me a single reason to do anything positive. Social media literally is just an echo chamber of people who just have the same talking points. It's so funny, even one of my friends, literally, when I told her I was doing like online like natural hair coaching, and I was just like, you know, serving, like doing things online with my YouTube channel, she's like, oh, ha ha ha, look at you. And I'll put her message right here. No shade to her, but it just shows me like she's on the internet a lot. But she was like, oh, look at you, you're a stay-at-home mom, but you're still collecting a bag. And I'm like, I've heard that narrative. Like, is that even coming from you? Why did you say that? Like, where did you hear that? That don't even sound like you. It sounds like you're just like vomiting something that you heard that you might not even agree with. Like, we need to start to pause and think, do I agree with this rhetoric? Is this something that I actually like stand for and believe? Because you're gonna start spitting these things back to people and you're not even knowing why you're saying it. Like, you don't, my friend didn't have a clue why she was trying to label me in some type of way when I told her I was coaching people. And I told her, I was like, oh, actually the coaching I'm doing is free. I'm not charging anyone for coaching. It's actually 100% free. I'm doing it for 6 weeks and it's free. So what were you saying again about me being a stay-at-home mom who's collecting the bag? I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart. So yeah, I just think like we need to go back to being natural woman for one, and to like start to look inward. Start to create our own narratives, start to create our own belief systems, the things that we like. We don't have to all wear the same outfit. We don't have to wear the same perfume. We don't have to look the same, talk the same, get the same surgeries. We can literally do better with this, like be better for this world. And you know, as an educator too, I see a different angle of it, where a lot of kiddos just don't even feel that connected to their families or that connected to their parents, and they love watching YouTube videos of family channels because that gives them an escape, that gives them something to like connect with a family that looks picture perfect, which, to be quite honest, the online families are far from picture perfect. Have you heard about Matt and Abby? Like, what? But it's just like, if we had stronger family values and stronger family units, the schools I used to work at would have students who were that much more happy and that much more comfortable in themselves. But that's not the case, because the family unit in the United States is just being broken down by social media and all this rhetoric about how women hate men and men ain't this and women are this, and we're just going back and forth all the time, when I just really think it's the work of the devil. And I think people think I'm crazy when I talk about the devil, but the enemy is real. The devil is a real entity. It's a real thing. And if you sit and really take a moment to be silent, just be at peace for once, and not let all the distractions and the noise come on in, you will start to notice a trend that there are things being pushed onto us that we truly don't agree with, we're not truly in alignment with, but because we hear it so much, it is becoming what we believe. And it don't gotta be that way. I used to think I needed to work my butt off. I used to think that to be worthy, I needed to work and do all this, and I could be a mom and I could work and I could do everything. Actually, no, I can't do everything. And biologically and based on my nature, I didn't want to work. I longed to be with my daughter, and she needed me at the age of 4 months. And it took my mom dying for me to realize that. Anyway, y'all, I just had to get that off my chest. This video might be all over the place, but we need to live and examine life. You need to sit and examine your life without the noise of social media, without the outside pressures of people who don't care about you. Sit and really think, where do you want to be right now? And how will where you're at right now propel you forward in the future to where you want to be? Because a lot of us are just going with the emotions and not really examining or thinking twice about the choices that we're making in the present moment. But the choices you make impact the future that you're going to have. And I just thank God that I was able to course correct. And again, Suzanne Vanker, her book, poppin'. So helpful. Even if you're somebody who grew up low income in the hood, it is possible for you to take back control of your life and for you to build a positive, healthy family with a man. And to love men and to love each other. We don't need all this hatred. It's so toxic. And it's obviously not working. All these channels that pop up about being a macho man and being red pill this and feminist this and how to be feminine. How to be feminine. You don't need to be taught how to be feminine. All you gotta do as a woman is surrender. Surrender. Just be you. We're naturally feminine. But the aggression and like the competing with men, that's what's taking away our femininity. Point blank period. And we talk about how we don't want men to flirt with us and we don't want men to look at us. And no wonder men don't do all that stuff. And like men are just so toxic and the toxic masculinity. But then a man is kind to you and you don't like that. Like we don't know what we want. So what we need is